Hi, I'm Dave Filoni, Supervising Director of Star Wars The Clone Wars, and I hope you're enjoying Season 4. And while we're in the middle of this little break, how about I answer some viewer questions? You guys always have a lot of questions. I love answering them. Sometimes you guys give me some tough ones, so let's get started, all right? Here's a question from Primus Saber. Primus Saber wants to know, in Mercy Mission, what is the deal with Orphne? Is she supposed to be a Force user? Absolutely not. Orphne is not a Force user. She's actually a frog lady. She's just a different kind of creature that you haven't seen in the Star Wars universe. Star Wars is based on a lot of mythic archetypes, and in the kind of naive realm of even in the fairy world, the Red Riding Hood world, the Sleeping Beauty, the Cinderellas, there are these characters that are fairy-like, and they seem to be a bit more magical than the rest of the world. And R2 and 3PO are the ones that can have contact with this world. I mean, in a different way of looking at it, Yoda would seem magical to R2 and 3PO also. Now you say, well, but that's because he's a Force user. But Orphne is not the same as Yoda. She's probably very in touch with the Force, but she's not as like a Jedi. She's more into the kind of from the realm of the Mother Talzins, the magic users. There's ways to use the Force other than Sith and Jedi, but you're not really a Force wielder. You're just very in tune with nature, and things come naturally. So some of her abilities that you see moving very quickly that Orphne does is just based on her physicality and the type of alien she is, and the way that she can turn seemingly into a little magic fairy ball. That's a little bit more of the kind of magic we see the Night Sisters using, but Orphne's more on the good side of it than the bad side of it. So in a way, it allows for even the world of Willow that George created, and you see some of the magic users there, the brownies and whatnot. It's kind of inclusive in a way with the Star Wars universe to me, in that it's all part of the Lucas universe. So Primus Saber, thank you for the question about Orphne. I bet you didn't think the answer would be that long, and yet it was. Here we have another question from Darth James. A lot of Darths out there watching I guess since, the bad guys ultimately win the Clone Wars, it makes sense it would be a popular program for the Darths. But how come they give Oda Gunga a new boss, but at the end of episode 3, Boss Nass is at the funeral of Padme? Well, the reason why Boss Nass is no longer in charge of the Gungans is that George wanted to tell a story where Jar Jar could easily be mistaken for the leaders of the Gungans. So George created Boss Leone, who looked just like Jar Jar. So we could play this kind of Kurosawa Shadow Warrior switcheroo. That left, unfortunately, Boss Nass out in the cold. But, Boss Nass is still around. He still lives in Oda Gunga. He still goes to all the parties. He plays a little golf, I guess, with Captain Typho. And when his friend, Padme Amidala, passed away, he absolutely went to the funeral. You'll see often, ex-presidents go to big heads of states and banquets and funerals long after they're no longer president. So it's not as if when Boss Leone was no longer, or when Boss Nass was no longer boss, that he could not go to these functions. It's crazy. It's the polite thing to do. We're just lucky he took the time to go to the funeral. It's a big event. Everyone was there, except obviously Anakin. But, that's just all part of the story. So thank you, Darth James. I hope I'm saying that correctly. But thank you for the question, and I hope you're satisfied with that answer. All right. So finally, my last question in this group at least. Another question from Nelwyn88. Nelwyn88 from Nomad Droids. He wants to know about Nomad Droids. Nelwyn, I laugh. Those of you that don't know, if you've never seen Willow, Nelwyn is a little hobbit-like creature, a little dwarf-like creature in George Lucas's film Willow, directed by Ron Howard. So much appreciation for the Nelwyn call out here. Are the little guys supposed to be a reference to Willow? Shocking that Nelwyn's asking a question about Willow. Your favorite movie? I wouldn't know. Because they tie up the heroes and sound a lot like the brownies from Willow. So he's saying in Nomad Droids, when 3PO get tied up with little people, are those people a reference to the film Willow that I was talking about, George Lucas created? And actually, yes, they are. Happily for you, they absolutely are. In fact, it was one of our challenges when we made the little people, how much like the brownies do we want to make them, since we know George created that. And George wouldn't often want to repeat himself. It was highly possible that George would ask us not to make them sound too much like the brownies, so there's something different. So I made sure that they were radically different colors and whatnot, so they didn't seem like the same exact little primitive people. But when it came to the voices, I couldn't really help making the voices somewhat reminiscent of a little people that George had created in the past. So I am not surprised that did not get past you, Nell188. Thank you very much for the question, and who knows, we may slip some other Bav Mortimer Mardigan references in the future, but I know if we do, you will catch it, no one. So thank you very much for watching the show, and I hope you enjoy it. Well, thank you so much for your questions. I really enjoy answering them. Like I said, you guys ask great questions. Never be afraid to ask questions, but for now, just like Yoda says, clear your mind of questions. Look forward to the rest of season 4 and keep checking StarWars.com for updates. We'll have new material here for you all the time and get you ready for the second half of season 4 and the coming of Darth Maul. So you got that to look forward to.